The night air in Riverton carries the kind of silence that feels too heavy to last. On a quiet residential street, an elderly black woman named Evelyn Brooks locks her front door after watering the plants on her porch. Her silver hair glimmers under the streetlight, her movements slow but steady. At 71, Evelyn is known throughout the neighborhood as Miss Brooks, the woman who always lends a hand, who babysits the children, who bakes pies for church fundraisers. But to the two officers sitting in a patrol car at the end of the block, she's just another target. Officer Tom Greer sips from a styrofoam cup of coffee, his eyes narrowing. Look at her, wandering around at night like she owns the place. Beside him, Officer Derek Mills smirks. She's trouble, Tom. They all are. Let's remind her whose street this is. They pull the cruiser slowly up the block, the headlights casting long shadows across Evelyn's porch. She notices the car but doesn't flinch. She's lived in Riverton long enough to recognize arrogance when she sees it. "Evening, officers," she says politely, folding her hands in front of her. Greer sneers. "Evening? Lady, it's almost midnight. What are you doing out here?" Evelyn tilts her head. "I live here. This is my home." Mills steps out of the cruiser, his boots crunching against the gravel. "Got ID?" Evelyn frowns. "ID? On my own porch?" Greer joins him, his voice dripping with contempt. "Don't get smart. People like you should be inside by now." Evelyn steadies her breath, her back straight. "I've lived here for 40 years. I've raised a family here. I don't need your permission to stand on my porch." The officers exchange a look. Mills mutters, "Think she's tough? Let's see." In a sudden flash of arrogance, Greer shoves her against the railing. Evelyn cries out, her body frail but her spirit unbroken. "Stop this! I've done nothing wrong!" But they don't stop. Mills grips his gun, his finger twitching. "Resisting, huh?" Before Evelyn can respond, the gunshot cracks through the night. The sound echoes down the block, lights flicking on in neighboring houses. Children scream, dogs bark, neighbors rush to their windows. Evelyn crumples to the porch floor, clutching her side, blood staining her blouse. The officers freeze, their arrogance faltering for a brief second. Greer's voice shakes. "What did you do?" Mills stammers. She moved too fast. I thought." "You thought?" Greer hisses. "You just shot an old woman." Panic fills the air, but it's too late. Neighbors are already rushing out, phones raised, recording everything. A young man shouts, "You shot Miss Brooks! She's 71!" The crowd grows within minutes, voices rising in fury. "Murderers! Murderers!" Greer shouts into his radio, his voice cracking. "Officer down! Suspect shot! Send backup now!" But the lie won't stick. Too many cameras catch Evelyn's frail body on the porch, her blood pooling under the light of the street lamp. Through the chaos, Evelyn whispers weakly, "My son. Call my son." Her neighbor, Mrs. Turner, kneels beside her, clutching her hand. "We will, Evelyn. Hold on." What the officers don't realize is who her son is. Hundreds of miles away, Special Agent Marcus Brooks sits in a Washington, D.C. office reviewing case files. As one of the FBI's most respected field leaders, Marcus is known for his sharp instincts and relentless pursuit of justice. His phone buzzes, the name Mrs. Turner flashing across the screen. He answers, his tone casual at first. "Hello?" But her trembling voice shatters his calm. "Marcus, it's your mama. The police. They shot her." Silence grips him. His chest tightens. His world narrows to a single point of rage. "What did you say?" "She's hurt bad, Marcus. Those officers, they shot her on her own porch." Marcus rises from his chair, his colleagues watching in shock as he storms out. His voice is low, steady, lethal. "I'm coming home, and those men's careers are already over." Back on Riverton streets, the sirens wail as more patrol cars flood the block. But the crowd doesn't back down. Neighbors shout, phones raised, live streams spreading across social media within seconds. "Justice for Miss Brooks!" they cry. "We saw what you did!" The officers try to control the scene, but the truth is already viral. Evelyn's faint voice breaks through the noise as she's lifted onto a stretcher. "Marcus, my boy!" And as the ambulance doors slam shut, the city knows. This storm will not be contained, because when Marcus Brooks arrives, he won't come alone. He will bring the FBI, and the careers of those officers will end before the ink on their reports can dry. The ambulance tears down Riverton's main street, sirens slicing through the night. Inside, Evelyn Brooks clings to consciousness, her frail body trembling. Paramedics work frantically, pressing gauze against her wound, shouting vitals over the roar of the engine. Evelyn whispers only one name again and again: Marcus, Marcus. Back at the scene, chaos reigns. Neighbors scream at the police, cell phones raised, live streams already hitting tens of thousands of viewers. Children cry in their parents' arms, while Mrs. Turner stands in the street, shouting at the officers. "You shot a 71-year-old woman! She wasn't a threat! We all saw it!" Officers Greer and Mills stand pale and shaken, their arrogance cracking under the weight of the crowd. Greer hisses, "We've got to get our story straight. Say she resisted. Say she pulled something." Mills stammers, "But she didn't. There were cameras, phones, everyone saw it." "Shut up," Greer snaps. "If we go down, it's together." But already the tide has turned. The crowd chants in unison, "Justice for Miss Brooks! Justice now!" Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Marcus Brooks races through DC's airport terminal, his FBI badge tucked into his jacket. He boards the first available flight to Riverton, his jaw clenched, his mind a storm. Every second feels like an eternity. He replays Mrs. Turner's trembling voice in his head. "They shot her on her porch." On the plane, passengers recognize him from news profiles. Agent Brooks, the man who took down the East Coast Syndicate. But tonight, he isn't a symbol of law enforcement success. Tonight, he is a son racing to his mother's side. In Riverton General Hospital, Evelyn is wheeled into surgery. Doctors and nurses work furiously, whispering in disbelief. An elderly woman shot on her porch? By police? The story spreads through the staff before it even hits the morning papers. Outside the hospital, protesters begin to gather. Word travels fast online. Hashtags flood Twitter. #justice. For Evelyn, #stop the abuse, #no badge above the law. By dawn, the story dominates every major news outlet. News vans line the hospital entrance, reporters broadcasting live. One anchor declares, "What began as another night in Riverton has turned into a national firestorm." Inside a police conference room, Chief Harold Reynolds slams his fist on the table. "2 of my officers shot a 71-year-old woman? On her porch? Do you understand what this means?" A deputy chief mutters nervously, "They're saying she's the mother of Marcus Brooks." FBI. The room falls silent. Everyone knows the name. Marcus Brooks has dismantled gangs, exposed corruption, and testified before Congress. And now their officers have shot his mother. Chief Reynolds rubs his temples. "God help us all." Across town, Greer and Mills sit in an interrogation room, their uniforms stripped of badges. Internal Affairs questions them relentlessly. Greer sticks to his lie. "She moved too fast. I thought she had a weapon." Mills, pale and trembling, says little. He knows the walls are closing in. Meanwhile, Marcus lands in Riverton. Reporters swarm, but he pushes through, his FBI badge flashing only once before he tucks it away. He has no interest in interviews. His eyes burn with a single purpose: his mother. At the hospital, he rushes through security, reaching the ICU. Mrs. Turner embraces him, tears streaming down her face. "Marcus, she's strong. She made it through surgery, but she kept asking for you." Marcus swallows hard, pushing into Evelyn's room. Machines beep softly. IV lines snake across her frail body. She looks smaller than he remembers, but her eyes open when she hears his voice. "Marcus?" she whispers, her lips trembling. "I'm here, Mama," he says, gripping her hand gently. His tough exterior cracks, his eyes wet. "I'm here, and I promise you, they'll never wear a badge again." Her weak smile fades into tears. Don't let them bury the truth." "I won't," Marcus vows. "Not this time. Not ever." Outside the hospital, the crowd grows louder. Chants shake the parking lot. "Justice for Evelyn, end police abuse." Reporters capture it all, broadcasting live to a nation already boiling with anger. In his hotel room that night, Marcus sits at a desk covered in files. He's already pulled every report on Greer and Mills, complaints of excessive force, racial profiling, cases buried by the department. He whispers to himself, "It ends now." Back at the precinct, Chief Reynolds receives a call from Washington. A federal investigation is being launched, led by none other than Marcus Brooks himself. The chief slumps in his chair, muttering, "Their careers are over, and maybe mine too." But in Riverton streets, the people already know. Justice is coming, and this time it has a name: Marcus Brooks. The sun rises over Riverton, but the city doesn't wake gently. Sirens wail, news vans clog the hospital entrance, and chants already echo in the streets. Justice for Evelyn, justice now. Overnight, Evelyn Brooks has become a symbol, her shooting shaking the nation. In her hospital room, Marcus Brooks watches his mother sleep, her frail chest rising and falling with each shallow breath. Machines beep softly, a fragile reminder that she is still fighting. Marcus whispers, "Stay strong, Mama. I'll take care of this." He steps into the hallway where reporters wait, cameras ready. Microphones are shoved in his face, questions fired rapidly. "Agent Brooks, will the FBI investigate? Do you think this was racially motivated? Will your mother survive?" Marcus raises his hand, his voice controlled but sharp. "The FBI is already investigating. Those responsible will be held accountable. My mother is strong and she is fighting. But make no mistake, her fight is now the nation's fight." The reporters erupt with more questions, but Marcus walks away, his jaw set. Meanwhile, inside Riverton Police Headquarters, Chief Harold Reynolds faces a storm of his own. Internal Affairs has already flagged the incident as catastrophic. The mayor calls, his voice panicked. "Harold, this city is burning. If you don't act, Washington will swallow us whole." Reynolds sighs heavily. "It's already out of my hands." In the interrogation room, officers Greer and Mills sit in silence. Mills fidgets nervously, sweat dripping down his brow. Greer leans back with forced arrogance, though his eyes betray fear. The investigator presses, "Why did you approach Evelyn Brooks?" Greer sneers, "Suspicious activity, wandering at night." "She was on her porch," the investigator snaps. "Her own property." Greer shrugs. "Could have been anyone, could have been a threat." Mills mutters under his breath. "She wasn't a threat. She was 71. Greer shoots him a glare sharp enough to cut steel. But the damage is done. The cracks in their story widen. Back at the hospital, Marcus meets with federal agents flown in overnight. Agent Karen Mitchell, a seasoned investigator, lays out the plan. "Marcus, this case is high profile. We need to keep it airtight. No mistakes, no gaps. We'll pull every body cam, every dispatch call, every citizen video, and we'll dig into their records." Marcus nods. "I already started. Greer and Mills have a history. Complaints buried by the department, excessive force, racial slurs, intimidation. They thought the system would protect them. Not this time." Outside, the protests swell larger. By noon, thousands crowd the hospital lawn. Clergy, students, veterans, families, they all chant as one. "Justice for Evelyn, no badge above the law." Evelyn's neighbors speak to reporters, their voices breaking. Mrs. Turner shouts, "She's the kindest woman in the city. She raised her family here, helped raise ours too. And they shot her like she was nothing." The footage spreads across social media, fueling outrage nationwide. Celebrities tweet support, civil rights leaders call for accountability, and the president is briefed personally. Meanwhile, Marcus returns to his mother's room. She stirs, her eyes fluttering open. Her voice is weak but steady. "Marcus?" He leans close, gripping her hand. "I'm here, Mama. They tried to break me," she whispers. "But don't let them break you too." Tears sting his eyes, but his voice remains firm. "They won't. I promise you, their careers are finished." Across town in his cramped cell, Derek Mills sits with his head in his hands. For the first time, the weight of what happened crushes him. He mutters to himself, "She was just an old woman. Why did we do it?" His conscience gnaws at him, but fear keeps him silent. Greer, however, remains defiant. He paces his cell, whispering to no one, "This is a witch hunt. They'll blame us, but we're just doing our jobs." Yet even he feels the ground shifting beneath him. By evening, Riverton is gridlocked. Streets overflow with protesters holding signs. "Justice for Evelyn, no more excuses, dignity is a right." Helicopters circle overhead, broadcasting live to the nation. Inside the FBI field office, Marcus reviews the evidence piling up. Body cam footage mysteriously malfunctioned, but citizen videos show everything. The shove, the sneer, the gunshot. It's damning. Agent Mitchell looks up from the screen. "Marcus, this isn't just negligence. It's deliberate abuse. This will end them." Marcus's jaw tightens. Good, because arrogance doesn't get a second chance. At the hospital, Evelyn drifts back to sleep, her fragile body fighting to heal. Marcus stands by her side, staring out the window at the glow of candles gathering below. Thousands of lights shimmer in the night, each one a promise that she is not alone. And in that moment, Marcus knows this isn't just about Evelyn anymore. It's about every person silenced, every voice ignored, every dignity denied. This storm has become a movement, and he will see it through to the end. By the second day, Riverton is no longer just a city, it's a stage. News anchors stand shoulder to shoulder outside the hospital, their voices echoing through live broadcasts. National networks run non-stop coverage. Elderly woman shot by police, son is FBI agent. Every clip, every chant, every candlelight vigil spreads across the country like wildfire. Inside the hospital, Marcus Brooks barely leaves his mother's side. He reads her updates from the doctors, whispers words of encouragement, and answers her weak smiles with steady strength. Each beep of the monitor fuels his determination. He's not just fighting for her, he's fighting for everyone who's ever been treated as disposable. Meanwhile, Riverton Police Headquarters is in crisis mode. Chief Harold Reynolds holds a press conference, his face tight with strain. Cameras flash as he clears his throat. The Riverton Police Department deeply regrets the incident involving Mrs. Evelyn Brooks. We are cooperating fully with federal investigators. Officers Greer and Mills have been suspended pending further review. The crowd outside the station explodes in boos. Protesters scream, "Suspended? They shot her! Lock them up!" The words rattle through the city like thunder. Back in his office, Reynolds slumps in his chair. His deputy mutters, "Suspension won't cut it. Not when the FBI's involved. Not when her son is leading the charge." Reynolds rubs his temples. "I know. We're already finished. It's just a matter of how bad it gets." In the holding cells below, Greer paces like a caged animal. He sneers at Mills, who sits silently on the bench. "Keep your mouth shut. We stick to the story. She moved too fast. We thought she had a weapon. That's it." Mills shakes his head. "There were cameras everywhere. Everyone saw it. We don't have a story, Tom. We're done." Greer's eyes flash with rage. "No, they're not taking my career. Not for some old woman." But his words sound emptier by the hour. At the hospital, Marcus meets with Agent Karen Mitchell and her team. She lays out folders thick with evidence. "We've compiled every complaint against these officers. Greer has a record a mile long. Racial profiling, excessive force, intimidation, most of it buried by the department." Mills followed his lead. They thought they were untouchable. Marcus flips through the pages, his jaw tightening. "Not anymore, not after this." Mitchell nods. "We'll press federal charges, civil rights violations, excessive force, attempted murder. Their careers are over, Marcus." Outside, the protests swell. College students march with banners, clergy lead prayers, families carry candles. Chants shake the air. "Justice for Evelyn, justice for all." Reporters interview neighbors, their voices raw with anger. Mrs. Turner, Evelyn's closest friend, stands before the cameras. "She's the heart of this neighborhood. She's 71 years old." They didn't see a neighbor, a grandmother, a human being. They saw a target, and they pulled the trigger. That's not policing. That's hate. The clip goes viral, fueling even more outrage. Inside the ICU, Evelyn stirs awake. Marcus leans close, his voice soft but steady. "I'm here, Mama." Her voice is weak, but her eyes are sharp. "They tried to silence me." Marcus squeezes her hand gently, "and now the whole country is speaking for you." Tears well in her eyes. "Promise me, Marcus. Don't stop when I'm gone. Promise me you'll fight for all of them." He swallows hard, his throat tight. "I promise, but you're not gone. You're still here, and you're going to see this through." She smiles faintly, drifting back to sleep. By evening, Riverton is on lockdown. Streets are flooded with protesters, helicopters buzz overhead, and the courthouse plaza glows with thousands of candles. National civil rights leaders arrive, standing with the community. The city has become the epicenter of a storm it can't contain. Meanwhile, in Washington, FBI officials hold a briefing. A senior director declares, "This case is more than local misconduct. It's a national crisis. Agent Brooks has full authority to lead. We will ensure justice is delivered." Back in Riverton, Marcus stands at the hospital entrance, facing reporters once more. Cameras flash, microphones crowd forward. He raises his hand, his voice cutting through the chaos. "My mother is fighting for her life, but this is bigger than her. This is about every person treated as if their dignity didn't matter. I promise you, justice will not be delayed. Justice will not be denied." The crowd erupts, chants roaring. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" In his cell, Greer hears the echoes from outside. For the first time, his arrogance falters. He mutters under his breath, "This city's lost its mind." But deep down, he knows the truth. His world is crumbling, and Marcus Brooks is the hammer driving the final nails into his career. As night falls, the glow of candles spreads across Riverton. From rooftops, students project words onto buildings. No badge above the law. Families sing, children chant, and Evelyn's name becomes a rallying cry. Marcus stands at the window of his mother's hospital room, staring down at the lights. His voice is quiet but unyielding. "This isn't just her fight anymore. It's everyone's, and I won't stop until arrogance falls." The storm rages on, and Riverton, once silent, now roars with justice. The third morning after the shooting, Riverton wakes to a city transformed. Helicopters buzz overhead, satellite trucks clog intersections, and chants echo through the streets before the sun even rises. Justice for Evelyn, justice for all. At Riverton General Hospital, the plaza outside has become a permanent protest site. Families hold candles, students wave signs, clergy lead prayers. Every night the numbers grow. Reporters call it the soul of a city refusing to be silenced. Inside the ICU, Marcus Brooks sits beside his mother's bed, her hand fragile in his. Evelyn stirs awake, her eyes cloudy but fierce. "Marcus," he leans close. "I'm here, Mama. They're trying to bury this. Don't let them." His jaw tightens. "They won't. I've already got the FBI digging. We have videos, witnesses, a history of misconduct. Their badges are finished." Evelyn breathes shallowly but manages a faint smile. "Good, because it was never just about me." Marcus's throat tightens, but he nods. "I know, this is for everyone." Meanwhile, across town, Riverton Police Headquarters looks like a fortress under siege. Protesters surround the building, chanting. Inside, Chief Reynolds meets with city officials, his voice strained. "We've lost control of the narrative. The FBI has taken over. Every buried complaint is being dug up, and the public wants blood." A councilman snaps, "This isn't just about public image anymore, Harold. This is survival. Do you understand what happens if the FBI proves we covered up complaints? Careers won't just end, they'll be prosecuted." Reynolds slumps in his chair. It's already too late. In the holding cells below, Mills sits with his head in his hands. His nerves are frayed, his voice cracking as he mutters, "I never wanted this. She was just an old woman. Why did we do it?" Greer snarls from across the cell, "Shut up! Don't you dare break! If you talk, you bury both of us." But Mills's conscience gnaws at him, louder than Greer's threats. Back at the hospital, Marcus meets with Agent Karen Mitchell and the federal team. She lays out evidence on the table. "We've confirmed what we feared. Body cams were disabled. Dispatch logs were falsified. But citizen footage is airtight. It shows everything. The shove, the sneer, the gunshot. They can't escape this." Marcus studies the images, his voice sharp. "Then charge them. Federal civil rights violations. Attempted murder. Don't let the city stall this." Mitchell nods. "Already in motion. Arrest warrants will be public by tomorrow." Outside, the protests grow louder as news leaks of impending charges. Chants erupt. "Arrest them now! Justice can't wait!" National media swarms. News anchors broadcast live from Riverton's courthouse steps. Civil rights leaders arrive from across the country, declaring Evelyn Brooks' shooting a turning point. Hashtags trend worldwide. Justice for Evelyn, #no badge above the law, #we stand with Marcus. That evening, Marcus steps outside the hospital to address the crowd. Cameras flash, microphones extend. He raises his hand, his voice cutting through the chants. "My mother is alive. She is fighting. But this isn't only about her survival. It's about every person who's been silenced, humiliated, or brutalized. I promise you, their time of arrogance is ending. Justice is coming." The roar from the crowd shakes the hospital windows. Inside his cell, Mills hears the chants faintly through the concrete. His conscience breaks. He whispers, "It's over. I can't carry this." Greer snaps, "You shut your mouth." But Mills shakes his head. For the first time, he sees clearly. Greer's arrogance is a cage, and he's been trapped inside it. The next morning, federal agents march into Riverton PD with arrest warrants. Cameras capture the moment Greer and Mills are led out in handcuffs. Protesters erupt in cheers, chanting louder than ever, "Justice! Justice! Justice!" Reporters swarm, capturing every second. Headlines scream, "Officers arrested in shooting of Evelyn Brooks." At the hospital, Marcus watches the coverage, his jaw set. He whispers to his mother, "It's starting, Mama. The walls are closing in on them." Evelyn squeezes his hand weakly. "Good. But don't stop here." Marcus nods, his eyes burning with resolve. "I won't. This isn't just justice for you. It's justice for everyone they thought was invisible." As night falls, Riverton glows with candlelight once more. Families sing, students chant, veterans salute. The city is alive with unity, and Marcus Brooks, standing at the hospital window, knows the fight has only begun. The officers' careers are finished, but the movement is only rising. The arrest of officers Greer and Mills sends shockwaves through Riverton. By dawn, the images of them in handcuffs have spread worldwide. News outlets replay the footage on loop. Two men who once strutted with arrogance, now led out by federal agents, their faces pale and broken. The courthouse plaza becomes a scene of jubilation. Protesters cheer, chanting louder than ever, "Justice for Evelyn, no badge above the law." Children wave signs, elders weep openly, and students sing as candles burn brighter than before. For the first time, the people feel momentum is on their side. Inside the hospital, Marcus Brooks watches the coverage with his mother. Evelyn's frail hand rests in his, her eyes wet with tears. "Marcus," she whispers, her voice weak but proud, "you promised me, and you kept that promise." He shakes his head gently. "This is only the beginning, Mama. They've been arrested, but we need convictions. We need to make sure the system doesn't bury this like it's buried so many others." She nods faintly. "Then keep going. Don't stop until the truth is louder than their lies." Meanwhile, inside Riverton's federal holding facility, Greer fumes in his cell. He paces like a caged wolf, muttering curses under his breath. His arrogance hasn't vanished. It has curdled into rage. "This is politics! They're using me to make an example." Mills, seated quietly on his bunk, stares at the floor. His face is pale, his eyes hollow. "It's not politics, Tom. We did this. She was just an old woman and we—" "Shut up," Greer snarls. "You think I'll let you drag me down? Don't you dare talk." But Mills doesn't stop. For the first time, he feels the weight of his conscience pressing harder than Greer's threats. "It's over. You know it. I know it. The whole country knows it." Across town, Marcus meets with Agent Karen Mitchell and the federal team. They spread files and evidence across the table. Mitchell's voice is steady. "The case is airtight. Citizen videos show the shooting. The falsified dispatch logs prove intent. And Greer's history is damning. Dozens of complaints buried, all resurfacing now. Mills will crack under pressure. He'll testify against Greer to save himself." Marcus leans over the table, his jaw clenched. "Good, because we're not just putting two men on trial, we're putting a culture on trial. This can't be spun into a mistake. It was arrogance, plain and simple." That evening, the protests grow even larger. Civil rights leaders arrive from across the country, standing shoulder to shoulder with Riverton's residents. A national broadcast captures the moment Marcus addresses the crowd outside the hospital. "My mother is alive tonight because she fought to stay alive. But how many others never got that chance? This isn't about one woman, one family, or one city. This is about every voice arrogance tried to silence. And I promise you, those days are over." The roar of the crowd shakes the hospital windows. Chants roll like thunder. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" Inside his cell, Mills hears the echoes even through the concrete walls. He covers his face with his hands, whispering, "It's done. We can't escape this." Greer glares at him, his voice dripping with venom. "If you talk, Mills, I'll bury you." But Mills doesn't respond. For the first time, he knows the truth. Greer can't bury anyone anymore. The following morning, the story reaches its peak. Newspapers headline, "From porch to protest, Evelyn Brooks becomes the face of a nation's rage." Editorials call for sweeping reform. Lawmakers demand hearings. The president issues a statement. No citizen should fear the people sworn to protect them. Justice must prevail. At the hospital, Evelyn stirs awake, her voice faint but determined. "Marcus," he leans close, gripping her hand. "I'm here, Mama. You have to keep going. Don't let them call this a victory too soon. Make sure it lasts." Tears sting his eyes, but his voice remains steady. "I will. I swear it." Later that day, Marcus and Agent Mitchell walk the courthouse steps together. Reporters swarm, questions fly. Marcus raises his hand, his voice clear. This is not just a case. This is a turning point. We will pursue it until arrogance is held accountable, not just here, but everywhere. The crowd erupts again, chants shaking the air. Reporters beam the footage across the country. Civil rights leaders declare it the beginning of a movement. And in Riverton, as night falls, the plaza glows with more candles than ever before. Children march at the front, holding signs almost bigger than themselves. Families sing, elders pray, veterans salute. At the hospital window, Evelyn watches the lights below, her weak smile glowing with pride. She whispers to herself, "This city has finally found its voice." And beside her, Marcus Brooks stands tall, his resolve sharper than ever. Because this isn't the end. It's only the beginning. Riverton has become the epicenter of a national reckoning. Every network runs wall-to-wall coverage, commentators dissecting every second of footage. Hashtags trend hourly. Justice for Evelyn, hashtag no badge. Above the law, end, arrogance. In the hospital, Evelyn Brooks lies in her bed, her frail body wrapped in blankets, but her spirit remains unbroken. Nurses whisper as they check her vitals. She's tougher than she looks. Marcus Brooks sits at her bedside, laptop open, juggling FBI files while never letting go of her hand. "Marcus," Evelyn murmurs, her voice weak but steady. "Yes, Mama? You promised me this wasn't just about me. You keep that promise. Don't stop until they know every life matters." His jaw tightens. "I swear it. Greer and Mills won't be the last. This movement won't stop until justice is more than a word." Across town, the Riverton courthouse prepares for the arraignment. Federal agents march Greer and Mills into the building in chains. Reporters swarm, cameras flashing. Protesters line the steps, their chants deafening. "Lock them up! Lock them up!" Inside the courtroom, the two officers sit at the defense table, pale and exhausted. Mills's hands shake as he fidgets with a pen, while Greer tries to maintain his arrogant posture, though sweat beads on his forehead. The prosecutor rises. "Your Honor, the defendants stand charged with federal civil rights violations, falsifying official reports, and attempted murder." Gasps ripple through the gallery. Families of past victims clutch each other, tears in their eyes. For them, this isn't just about Evelyn. It's about years of silence finally breaking. When the judge asks for a plea, Greer smirks defiantly. "Not guilty." Mills hesitates, his voice trembling. "Not guilty." But his eyes betray doubt. Outside the courthouse, Marcus addresses the crowd. Microphones crowd forward, cameras flash. "This is the first step, but don't mistake it for the last. We've seen too many cases buried, too many voices silenced. This time, the truth is louder, and it won't be silenced again." The chants grow louder. "Justice for Evelyn! Justice for all!" Back in his cell, Mills can't sleep. He stares at the ceiling, haunted by Evelyn's frail figure collapsing on her porch. Her cry, her blood, her neighbors screaming. It replays in his mind endlessly. He whispers into the dark, "She wasn't a threat. She never was." His conscience gnaws deeper each night. Greer, however, rages. He slams his fist against the wall, muttering, "They'll make me a scapegoat. They'll forget all the good years I gave. They can't erase me." But even he knows, the tide has turned. His arrogance no longer commands fear. Meanwhile, the movement spreads. In Chicago, thousands march with candles, chanting Evelyn's name. In Atlanta, students project the words, "Dignity is a right," across City Hall. In Los Angeles, a mural of Evelyn appears overnight, painted with the words, "Her pain is our fight." National leaders begin to weigh in. Senators call for reform, governors release statements, even the president addresses the nation. No badge, no uniform, no authority can place anyone above the law. Justice must prevail. In Riverton, the hospital lawn becomes a sea of candles each night. Families gather, children sing, elders pray. For the first time in years, the city feels united. Not in fear, but in hope. One evening, Marcus steps outside the hospital to speak directly to the crowd. His voice carries through the night. "You've turned grief into strength. You've turned pain into power. My mother fought for her life, but you, each of you, have fought for her dignity, and together we will fight for everyone's dignity." The crowd roars, chants rolling like thunder. "We will rise, we will rise." Inside, Evelyn hears the faint echoes through her window. A tear slips down her cheek. She whispers, "Marcus, they're standing with us." And in that moment, she knows she is no longer just a victim. She is a symbol. But Marcus knows the fight is far from over. The trial looms, and with it, the challenge of breaking a culture that has buried too many truths. He sits in the hospital room late into the night, reviewing files, preparing witnesses, building the case. Leonard calls from Washington, his voice urgent. "Marcus, this case is bigger than Riverton now. It's national. You're not just prosecuting two men, you're shaping history." Marcus exhales, his eyes locked on his mother's fragile form. "Then history better be ready, because I won't stop until arrogance falls for good." As dawn breaks, Riverton wakes again to the chants outside the hospital. "Justice for Evelyn! Justice now!" And Marcus Brooks, weary but resolute, steels himself once more, because the storm is still raging. But this time, it belongs to the people. The trial of officers Tom Greer and Derek Mills becomes the most anticipated event Riverton has ever seen. In the days leading up to it, the courthouse is surrounded by crowds. Some carry signs demanding justice, others sing hymns, and reporters broadcast live around the clock. The nation is watching. Inside his hospital room, Marcus Brooks adjusts his mother's blankets before preparing to leave for the courthouse. Evelyn's eyes open, weak but steady. "Marcus," she whispers, "promise me, you won't just fight for me. Fight for everyone." Marcus grips her hand. "I promise, Mama, this isn't just about you anymore, it's about all of us." She smiles faintly before drifting back to sleep. Marcus straightens his suit, his FBI badge clipped to his belt, and walks out with resolve carved into every step. At the courthouse, security is tight. Metal barricades line the sidewalks, but the chants outside still roar. "Justice for Evelyn! Justice now!" Helicopters circle overhead. National leaders arrive, their faces grim. Inside the courtroom, Greer sits stiffly, his jaw clenched, his arrogance still trying to mask his fear. Mills, on the other hand, looks broken, his eyes darting nervously, his hands trembling as he fidgets with a paper cup of water. The prosecutor begins the opening statement, his voice steady but cutting. "This is not just about one night. This is about a culture of arrogance, abuse, and lies." The defendants, sworn to protect and serve, instead chose to intimidate, falsify, and nearly kill a 71-year-old woman on her own porch. "Tonight, we show you the truth. Tonight, we hold them accountable." Gasps ripple through the gallery. Families of past victims nod, tears streaming down their cheeks. When the defense rises, their strategy is clear. Doubt, distraction, denial. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," the lawyer says smoothly, "this was a tragedy, yes, but not a crime. Officers Greer and Mills believed they were in danger. They reacted in the line of duty. There was no malice, no intent, only a mistake." Murmurs ripple through the gallery, but no one is convinced. Everyone remembers the videos, the arrogance, the shove, the gunshot. Outside, the chants grow louder as news of the defense strategy leaks. Protesters scream, "Not a mistake, a crime." Meanwhile, in the holding facility, Mills spends sleepless nights tormented by guilt. Images of Evelyn collapsing replay in his mind. He whispers into the darkness, "She was someone's mother. She was someone's grandmother. What have I done?" Greer, however, rages. He slams his fist against the wall, muttering, "They can't erase me. I won't let them." Back in the courtroom, witnesses take the stand. Neighbors testify about what they saw. Evelyn standing calmly on her porch, the officer's sneers, the shove, the shot. Their voices shake, but their words are powerful. One young woman, who filmed the incident, plays her video for the jury. Gasps echo as the footage rolls, the arrogance clear, the abuse undeniable. When asked why she filmed, she responds, her voice cracking, "Because I knew no one would believe us if I didn't." The jury stares grimly at the screen, the truth etched into their faces. Meanwhile, Evelyn's health fluctuates. Some nights, her breathing grows shallow, alarms beeping as nurses rush in. Marcus spends every free moment by her side, whispering encouragement. "Stay with me, Mama. Just a little longer. Justice is coming." Outside the hospital, vigils grow nightly. The lawn is covered with candles, signs, and flowers. Strangers travel from across the country to stand with Riverton. Civil rights leaders call Evelyn the spark of a new fire. Back in Washington, lawmakers debate reforms directly inspired by her case. News anchors call it the Brooks effect. One evening, Marcus steps out of the courthouse into a sea of microphones. Reporters fire questions. Agent Brooks, do you believe the jury will convict? Are you concerned the defense will sway them? Marcus raises his hand. The evidence speaks louder than any argument. The world saw what happened. The jury has one job, to listen to the truth, and the truth is undeniable. The crowd roars, chants shaking the night sky. Justice! 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 Inside his cell, Mills feels the weight crushing him. He whispers, I can't carry this anymore. For the first time, he begins to consider cooperating to tell the truth. Greer notices his silence and snaps, Don't you dare! If you open your mouth, you destroy both of us. But Mills stares at the floor, his conscience heavier than his fear. In the courtroom the next day, the prosecutor calls Marcus to the stand. The gallery falls silent as he takes his oath. His voice is calm but powerful. My mother is alive because she fought to stay alive. But this case isn't about survival. It's about dignity. And dignity cannot be shot, silenced, or buried. Not anymore. The words ripple through the courtroom, striking harder than any evidence. Outside, the chants swell to a roar. And for the first time, Riverton believes the end of arrogance is within reach. The trial enters its second week, and Riverton feels like the center of the nation. Every headline screams about it, every broadcast station cuts live to the courthouse, and every conversation in coffee shops and classrooms starts with the same question. Will they be convicted? Inside the courtroom, the air is tense. Journalists fill the gallery, their pens scratching furiously. Families of victims sit shoulder to shoulder, holding hands, hoping this case will bring the justice they never received. The prosecution calls more witnesses. A doctor from Riverton General testifies about Evelyn's injuries. His voice is clinical, but the weight of his words is heavy. The bullet narrowly missed her lung. Had it traveled an inch further, she would not have survived. Gasps ripple through the gallery. Evelyn's frailty becomes undeniable. Next, Mrs. Turner, Evelyn's neighbor, takes the stand. Her hands tremble, but her voice grows stronger with each word. She was standing on her porch. She wasn't yelling, she wasn't threatening, she was just living in her home, and they shot her like she didn't matter. Tears streak down her cheeks, and many in the gallery cry with her. The defense rises, trying to shake her testimony. Mrs. Turner, isn't it possible that in the heat of the moment the officers felt threatened? She snaps back, her voice sharp. Threatened by a 71-year-old woman with a watering can? No, they weren't threatened. They were arrogant. The jury shifts in their seats, her words hanging heavy in the room. Meanwhile, Marcus spends every night at the hospital after court. He sits by Evelyn's side reading reports, whispering updates. Some nights she stirs, her eyes flickering open. Marcus? She whispers. Are they paying for what they did? He squeezes her hand. Not yet, but soon. I promise. Outside the hospital, the lawn has transformed into a sea of candles and posters. Strangers kneel in prayer. Families sing hymns. Children hold signs that say, Justice for Evelyn, justice for all. The vigil has become a nightly ritual, a city refusing to forget. In the courthouse holding cells, Derek Mills struggles with his conscience. He paces endlessly, his face pale, his eyes sunken. The images of Evelyn collapsing replay in his mind like a haunting film. He whispers to himself, She was someone's mother, someone's grandmother. What have I done? Greer notices his weakness. Don't you dare crack. If you open your mouth, you drag me down too. Mills stares at him, his voice low but firm. Maybe it's time someone finally told the truth. Greer's eyes flare with rage, but for the first time, fear flickers behind them. Back in court, the prosecution begins to build its closing narrative. They highlight the falsified dispatch logs, the disabled body cams, the arrogance dripping from every action that night. The defendants thought they were untouchable, the prosecutor says, his voice rising. But dignity is not negotiable, and tonight, the jury must prove it. The defense counters desperately. These men served Riverton for years. They made a mistake, yes, but they are not criminals. Do not destroy their lives over one incident. But the words fall flat. The gallery remembers the video, the sneers, the gunshot. Meanwhile, Marcus himself becomes a reluctant figure of hope. Reporters swarm him outside the courthouse. Cameras flash, microphones crowd forward. He raises his hand, his voice calm but fierce. My mother's pain is visible, but so is the truth, and truth doesn't bend. Not for badges, not for arrogance, not for anyone. The clip spreads instantly across social media, becoming a rallying cry. Across the country, protests erupt in solidarity. In New York, thousands march through Times Square chanting Evelyn's name. In Atlanta, students project her face onto the side of a courthouse. In Los Angeles, a mural of Evelyn holding a candle covers a city block. Back in Riverton, the courthouse plaza swells with even more protesters. The chants echo into the night. Justice! 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 Inside the hospital, Evelyn hears the faint echoes. A tear slips down her cheek as she whispers to a nurse, "They're standing with me, with all of us." In his cell, Mills lies awake, staring at the ceiling. The roar of chants reaches his ears, carried faintly on the night air. His conscience presses harder. He whispers, "I can't carry this anymore." Greer snarls from the shadows, "Don't you dare betray me!" But Mills doesn't answer. His silence says everything. As dawn breaks, Riverton wakes restless. The trial is reaching its climax. The jury will soon deliberate, and the city knows its fate hangs in the balance. Marcus stands at his mother's bedside one more time before court. He kisses her forehead gently. "Today, Mama, today we make history." And as he walks out, the chants already rise from the streets. "Justice for Evelyn! Justice now!" The storm is at its peak, and justice is on the edge of being written. The courthouse overflows with tension as the trial edges toward its climax. Reporters line the hallways, protesters crowd outside, and chants shake the very windows. "Justice for Evelyn! Justice now!" Inside the courtroom, the jury listens intently as the prosecution begins its closing arguments. The prosecutor's voice is sharp, each word striking like a hammer. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have seen the videos. You have heard the testimony. You have read the falsified reports. These men did not act in fear. They acted in arrogance. They believed a 71-year-old black woman could be silenced, ignored, erased. But tonight you decide whether dignity is optional or whether it is the law of this land." Gasps ripple through the gallery. The words hang in the air like thunderclouds. When the defense rises, their tone is desperate. "My clients served Riverton for decades. They made a mistake, yes, but it was not malicious. Do not let one night erase their lives of service." But the words sound hollow against the mountain of evidence. Even the jurors glance uneasily at Greer and Mills. Greer sits rigid, his jaw clenched, sweat on his brow. Mills trembles, his hands shaking as he avoids the jury's gaze. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse, the plaza is packed shoulder to shoulder. Families hold candles, students wave signs, clergy lead prayers. The chants roll like thunder. "Justice for Evelyn, no badge above the law." National networks broadcast the scene live, commentators calling it a defining moment for justice in America. Back in the hospital, Evelyn Brooks lies in her bed, watching coverage on a small television. Her voice is faint but steady as she whispers to a nurse, "They're standing with me, with all of us." Tears slip down her cheeks as she sees the candles glowing, the chants echoing, the signs bearing her name. Marcus stands at the courthouse steps, addressing the crowd before the jury begins deliberations. His voice cuts through the roar of chants. "This is more than a trial. This is history. My mother is alive because she fought to stay alive. But this case is not only hers, it is yours. And today, you prove whether arrogance can stand or whether justice will rise." The crowd erupts, chanting his name, chanting hers, chanting justice itself into the air. Inside his holding cell, Mills can no longer contain his conscience. He mutters to himself, "It's over. She was innocent. She didn't deserve this. None of them did." His voice trembles as tears streak his face. For the first time, he admits the truth aloud. Greer hears him and snarls, "Shut your mouth. If you break, you bury us both." But Mills shakes his head, whispering, "Maybe that's what should happen." Back in the courtroom, the jury is sent to deliberate. The entire city holds its breath. Hours stretch into the evening, tension mounting. News anchors speculate endlessly. Protesters refuse to leave, their chants echoing into the night sky. At the hospital, Marcus kneels by his mother's bedside. "They're deliberating now, Mama. By tomorrow we'll know." Her hand grips his weakly, her voice barely a whisper. "Then tomorrow, Marcus, make sure justice finally breathes." By dawn, the jury announces they have reached a verdict. The city explodes with anticipation. Crowds flood the courthouse plaza. Cameras broadcast live. Chants thunder like a storm. Inside the courtroom, the judge asks, "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The foreperson rises, holding the slip of paper that will decide history. The room is silent. The nation is silent. Greer's face twists with arrogance, his jaw tight, his stare fixed on the jury. Mills trembles, his body slumped in defeat. The foreperson's voice rings clear. "On the charge of attempted murder, we find the defendants guilty. On the charge of civil rights violations, guilty. On the charge of falsifying reports, guilty." The courtroom erupts. Gasps, cheers, tears. Reporters scribble furiously. Cameras flash. Families embrace. Outside, the chants explode into a roar. "Justice! Justice! Justice!" The plaza shakes with joy. Strangers hugging. Candles lifted high in triumph. Greer slams his fist against the table, shouting, "This isn't justice! This is politics!" Officers restrain him as he thrashes, his arrogance collapsing into rage. Mills collapses into his chair, sobbing quietly. For him, the weight of guilt is heavier than the sentence itself. Marcus rises slowly, his face calm but fierce. He turns toward the gallery, toward the cameras, toward the world. His voice is steady, unyielding. "You just witnessed history. Arrogance tried to bury dignity, but tonight, dignity rose. This is not the end. It is the beginning. And justice will not stop here." The crowd outside roars louder, the sound echoing across the city, across the nation. Back at the hospital, Evelyn hears the verdict on the television. A weak smile spreads across her face as tears stream down her cheeks. She whispers softly, "Justice, finally." As night falls, Riverton glows brighter than ever. Thousands gather in the streets, candles lighting up the skyline, chants rolling into the heavens. The storm has passed, but its fire remains, because arrogance has fallen, and justice has risen. The verdict reverberates through Riverton like an earthquake. Within minutes of the announcement, the courthouse plaza transforms into a sea of celebration. Strangers embrace, children lift candles into the night, and chants roll like thunder. "Justice for Evelyn, justice for all." News anchors describe the moment in real time. "This is history," one reporter declares. "For the first time in Riverton, officers have been held accountable in such a public and decisive way." Inside the courthouse, Marcus Brooks watches the defendants being led away in chains. Greer thrashes, shouting about conspiracies, but his words sound empty. His arrogance has collapsed under the weight of truth. Mills stumbles, tears streaking his face, his guilt finally consuming him. Marcus exhales deeply, but he doesn't celebrate. Not yet. He knows this is only one battle in a much larger war. Outside cameras swarm him instantly. Reporters shout questions, microphones thrust toward his face. "Agent Brooks, do you believe this verdict will change Riverton forever?" Marcus raises his hand, his voice steady. "This verdict proves something simple but powerful. Dignity is not optional. It belongs to everyone. But one verdict does not end arrogance. One case does not erase a culture. We must keep standing, keep demanding, until justice isn't the exception, it's the rule." The crowd roars, chants erupting once more. "Justice doesn't rest! Justice doesn't rest!" Back at Riverton General, Evelyn hears the verdict on the television in her room. Her eyes glisten with tears as she whispers, "They did it. My son, my city, they stood." A nurse squeezes her hand gently, whispering, "You gave them the courage, Mrs. Brooks." Meanwhile, the story dominates national headlines. Newspapers print bold covers, "Justice for Evelyn." Cable news shows the footage of the guilty verdict on loop. Editorials call it a watershed moment, a spark for nationwide reform. In Washington, lawmakers seize the momentum. A senator addresses Congress. "The case of Evelyn Brooks has reminded us that dignity must be guaranteed, not gambled. We cannot wait for the next tragedy. Reform is overdue." Proposals for new accountability measures are introduced within days. Commentators call it the Brooks effect. But in Riverton, the work is only beginning. Marcus meets with community leaders, activists, and clergy in a packed church basement. The room buzzes with energy and purpose. A student leader stands up. "This verdict is a victory, but it's not enough. We need oversight. We need transparency. We need change that lasts." Marcus nods firmly. "And we'll get it, because we're not finished." Evelyn's fight is everyone's fight. Across town, Greer sits in his cell, his arrogance replaced with bitter silence. He mutters to himself, "They made me the villain. They'll forget me one day." But deep down, he knows the truth. History has already been written, and he is nothing but its warning. Mills, however, breaks down completely. He sobs quietly in his bunk, whispering Evelyn's name again and again. For him, guilt is the heaviest sentence of all. Outside Riverton, the movement spreads like wildfire. In Chicago, thousands march with candles, chanting Evelyn's name. In Los Angeles, artists paint a mural of her with the words, "Dignity is a promise." In New York, students project her face onto skyscrapers. Marcus receives letters from across the country. Victims' families, young activists, elderly citizens who had lost hope. One letter from a teenager reads, "When I saw you stand for your mother, I realized I didn't have to stay silent anymore. Thank you for showing us the way." He shows the letter to Evelyn at her bedside. She smiles faintly. "See, Marcus, this wasn't just about me, it was about them, all of them." That night, Riverton holds its largest vigil yet. Tens of thousands fill the streets, candles glowing like rivers of light. From rooftops, students project words across buildings. No badge above the law. Families sing, veterans salute, clergy pray. Marcus stands at the hospital window with Evelyn, looking out at the glow. She whispers, her voice fragile but fierce, "They found their voice, Marcus. Promise me they won't lose it." He squeezes her hand gently. "I promise, Mama. I'll make sure of it." The chants rise into the night, rolling across Riverton, across the country, across history itself. Justice, justice, justice. The storm that began on Evelyn Brooks's porch has become a movement that cannot be silenced. Arrogance has fallen, and justice has risen, stronger than ever. The days after the verdict feel like a new season in Riverton. For the first time in decades, the city breathes hope. Yet beneath the celebration lies a steady current of determination. This was not the end, but the beginning. On the steps of Riverton General Hospital, reporters gather daily for updates on Evelyn Brooks. She remains weak but stable, her recovery slow. Every glimpse of her, every whisper from a nurse becomes headline news. To the people, she is more than a patient. She is a living symbol. Marcus Brooks spends his mornings in her room reading letters aloud. One comes from a veteran in Ohio. "I fought for freedom overseas but came home to be treated like a suspect. Your courage reminded me my dignity still matters." Evelyn smiles faintly, whispering, "See, Marcus, it wasn't just my fight, it was his too." In the afternoons, Marcus meets with community leaders at the courthouse. The building's marble halls, once symbols of silence, now echo with voices demanding reform. Clergy, students, lawyers, and families sit side by side, sketching plans for oversight committees and citizen review boards. One young activist stands and says, "The verdict was a victory, but if we stop here, arrogance will rise again. We need laws that last longer than headlines." Marcus nods, "And we'll make sure we get them." Meanwhile, national momentum builds. Congress holds hearings on police accountability, citing Evelyn's case repeatedly. Senators invoke her name in speeches, calling her ordeal the spark of a new era. Analysts call it the Brooks effect. In Riverton, murals bloom across brick walls. Evelyn's face surrounded by candles, her silver hair crowned with the words, "Dignity is a promise." Children stop to point, parents kneel to explain, and tourists snap photos. The city that once lived in fear now carries pride painted on its walls. But not everyone celebrates. Inside his prison cell, Tom Greer seethes. He paces endlessly, his arrogance now twisted into bitter rage. "They turned me into the villain," he mutters. "They'll forget me one day." They always forget. Yet he knows deep down that history has already passed judgment. His name will be remembered not with honor, but with shame. Derek Mills, meanwhile, sits silently in his cell. His eyes are hollow, his voice barely a whisper. Night after night, he repeats the same words. She wasn't a threat. She never was. His guilt gnaws at him, heavier than iron bars. Back at the hospital, Evelyn improves slowly. One evening, she asks Marcus to wheel her to the window. From there, she sees the courthouse plaza glowing with candles. Thousands stand in vigil, their chants carrying into the night. Her eyes fill with tears. "All that, for me?" Marcus kneels beside her, his voice steady. "Not just for you, Mama. For everyone like you. You gave them the courage to stand." She grips his hand. "Then don't let them sit back down." The following weekend, Riverton hosts a march larger than any before. Tens of thousands flood the streets, candles in hand, chants rolling like thunder. From balconies, families wave banners. From rooftops, students shine lights into the sky. At the front of the march, Marcus walks beside community leaders. When they reach the courthouse steps, he turns to address the crowd. Cameras capture every word, broadcasting live to the nation. This began with a single act of arrogance, a shove, a sneer, a gunshot. But look around you. That arrogance gave birth to this, to unity, to strength, to justice. And tonight, Riverton tells the world, dignity is not negotiable. It is a right. The roar from the crowd shakes the city. Dignity is a right, dignity is a right. Back in Washington, lawmakers watch the broadcast. A senator whispers to a colleague, this is bigger than one city now. This is a movement we can't ignore. That night, Evelyn watches the coverage from her hospital bed. Her frail hands clap softly as tears roll down her cheeks. That's my boy, she whispers. That's our city. Marcus returns to her side afterward, exhausted but resolute. He kneels, his voice soft. We're changing things, Mama. One step at a time. She smiles, her eyes shining. Keep stepping, Marcus. Don't stop until the road is clear. As Riverton sleeps under candlelit skies, the chants linger like a heartbeat. Justice for Evelyn, justice for all. And Marcus Brooks, weary but unbroken, knows the truth. The verdict was not the finale. It was the opening act of something greater. Arrogance has fallen, and justice at last has begun to rise. Autumn settles over Riverton, but the fire lit by Evelyn Brooks's shooting burns hotter than ever. The courthouse plaza, once just stone steps, has become a shrine of justice. Candles flicker every night, murals cover walls across the city, and chants still roll like thunder. Justice for Evelyn, justice for all. Inside Riverton General, Evelyn's condition stabilizes. Though frail, she regains strength slowly, her voice stronger each day. Marcus sits with her every morning, updating her on the reforms sweeping across the country. Mama, he says one day, holding a newspaper, Congress just passed a bill requiring federal oversight of police misconduct cases. They called it the Brooks provision. Evelyn smiles weakly, pride shining in her eyes. Marcus, we turned pain into progress. That's all I ever wanted. Across town, national leaders flood into Riverton. Senators, activists, and even celebrities arrive to meet with Marcus and community organizers. Press conferences fill the courthouse steps. A senator declares, what happened here will echo for generations. Riverton has become the city where arrogance fell and justice stood tall. But not everyone celebrates. In his prison cell, Tom Greer stews in silence. His arrogance has curdled into resentment. He spends his days pacing, muttering, they'll forget me, they always forget. Yet even he knows the truth. His name is etched into history as a warning, not a legacy. Derek Mills, on the other hand, has become a shadow of himself. He eats little, sleeps less, and whispers constantly. Guards overhear him at night. She was 71. She wasn't a threat. His guilt consumes him, heavier than any sentence. Back at the courthouse, Marcus leads a coalition of community leaders. The meeting room buzzes with energy. Activists draft proposals for civilian review boards. Clergy push for mandatory body cameras, and students demand training reforms. This movement cannot fade, Marcus tells them firmly. We can't let this be a single verdict remembered for a week. We need structures that outlast us all. Meanwhile, Riverton University hosts a symposium on justice, inviting Marcus as the keynote speaker. The auditorium overflows with students, professors, and community members. Cameras broadcast live across the nation. When Marcus takes the stage, silence falls. His voice is steady, his presence commanding. My mother's blood still stains her porch. That porch is not just hers, it represents every doorstep where dignity was denied. But Riverton proved something. When people stand, arrogance falls. And we must keep standing until justice is more than an exception, until it is expected. The audience erupts in a standing ovation. Students chant his words back at him. Justice is expected. Justice is expected. Clips flood social media. Hashtags trend again. #justice is expected. How Brooks effect. That night, Marcus returns to the hospital. Evelyn watches the coverage on her small television, tears in her eyes. Marcus, you've given them hope. He kneels beside her. You gave them hope, Mama. You stood when they tried to break you. I'm just making sure the world hears it. She squeezes his hand weakly. Then keep speaking. Don't stop now. Meanwhile, the protests continue to swell. In New York, marchers block traffic in Times Square, chanting Evelyn's name. In Atlanta, students paint her face across a downtown building. In Los Angeles, thousands march with candles, their chants rolling through the streets. Reporters call it a nationwide movement born from a single porch. Back in Riverton, the courthouse plaza hosts another massive march. Tens of thousands gather, their candles glowing like rivers of fire. Marcus stands at the front, addressing the crowd. They tried to silence one woman. Instead, they gave a voice to millions. Tonight, Riverton tells the world, dignity is not negotiable, justice is not optional, and arrogance will never stand again. The crowd roars, chants thundering into the night. We will rise, we will rise. From her hospital window, Evelyn hears the chants faintly. A tear slips down her cheek as she whispers, "We rose, Marcus, we rose." Across the nation, leaders take notice. Lawmakers cite Riverton in debates, civil rights leaders hail it as a turning point, and ordinary citizens find courage in its story. But Marcus knows the storm isn't over. He sits by his mother's bed that night, whispering, "We've come far, Mama, but the fight is bigger than Riverton, bigger than us, and we can't stop now." Evelyn's eyes shine as she whispers back, "Then don't. Keep going until justice isn't demanded. It's delivered." Outside, the chants continue into the autumn night, echoing across Riverton, across the nation, across history itself. Arrogance has fallen, and justice at last has begun to endure. Riverton has changed. The same streets that once echoed with silence now thunder every night with chants, songs, and prayers. Tourists arrive to see the courthouse plaza, now nicknamed the People's Square. Reporters describe Riverton as the city where a movement was born. Inside Riverton General, Evelyn Brooks continues to heal. Though still weak, she insists on sitting upright. Her eyes glued to the television whenever coverage of the marches appears. Nurses laugh softly when she scolds them. "Turn it up." That's my city out there. Marcus spends every free moment at her bedside. One afternoon, he reads her another letter, this one from a teenager in California. "When I saw what happened to you, I realized my voice matters. I joined my first protest because of you. Thank you for showing me courage." Evelyn smiles faintly, whispering, "That's the real victory, Marcus. Not just a verdict, a generation finding its voice." Meanwhile, across town, Riverton University hosts a rally drawing thousands of students. Marcus takes the stage, his presence commanding, his words cutting through the autumn air. They tried to bury the truth on a porch that night, but the truth grew louder. The truth lit candles. The truth filled streets. And now the truth will not be silenced again. The crowd roars, chants rolling like thunder. "Truth will rise! Truth will rise!" National broadcasts carry the rally live. Hashtags trend instantly. #Truth will rise, #Brooks effect. But inside his prison cell, Tom Greer seethes. He paces endlessly, muttering, "They turned me into the villain. They'll forget me one day." Yet the truth gnaws at him. His name will never be remembered with honor, only shame. Derek Mills, meanwhile, is a hollow shell. He sits on his bunk, whispering the same words night after night. "She wasn't a threat, she never was." Guards shake their heads, saying quietly, "He's already serving a sentence heavier than the court gave him." Back at the courthouse, Marcus meets with lawmakers and activists. The building's marble halls hum with urgency. Civilian review boards are proposed, oversight committees planned. One lawmaker says, "Riverton is the model now. What we do here will shape the nation." Marcus nods, his voice firm. "Then we must make sure it lasts. This movement can't fade when the cameras leave." Later that week, Riverton hosts its largest march yet. Tens of thousands flood the streets, candles glowing, chants shaking the earth. From rooftops, students project Evelyn's face across skyscrapers. From balconies, families wave banners reading, "Dignity is a right." At the front of the march, Marcus walks beside clergy and community leaders. When they reach the courthouse steps, he turns to address the sea of people. This is no longer just Riverton's story. This is America's story. And tonight, we tell the world, arrogance may rise, but justice will rise higher. The roar that follows shakes the plaza. Families weep, children cheer, strangers embrace. The city is alive with unity. Back at the hospital, Evelyn hears the coverage through her small television. Tears slip down her cheeks as she whispers, "That's my boy. That's our city." Marcus returns to her side afterward, exhausted but resolute. She grips his hand weakly. Marcus, promise me this. Don't let them turn this into just a memory. Make sure it lives on. He nods firmly. I promise, Mama. I'll keep standing until justice doesn't need to be demanded. It's delivered. Across the nation, the momentum spreads. In Chicago, marchers block highways, chanting Evelyn's name. In New York, students paint murals across campus walls. In Atlanta, a memorial service is held for past victims, their families chanting alongside Rivertons. Commentators call it a second civil rights wave. But Marcus knows storms don't pass easily. In Washington, opponents push back, accusing him of politicizing tragedy. Anonymous threats flood his inbox. Leonard warns him, the more visible you become, the more they'll try to break you. Marcus answers calmly, then let them try. The truth is louder. As autumn deepens, Riverton shines brighter. Candlelight marches continue nightly, chants filling the air. The courthouse plaza glows like a beacon, drawing visitors from around the world. Inside her hospital room, Evelyn whispers as she watches it all unfold. We rose, Marcus. We rose. And she is right. Because Riverton, once silent, has become the city where dignity stood, arrogance fell, and justice began to endure. Winter creeps into Riverton, but the fire lit by Evelyn Brooks's ordeal refuses to fade. Snow dusts the courthouse plaza, yet every night crowds gather with candles. Their breath fogs in the cold, but their chants are warm and strong. Justice for Evelyn. Justice for all. Inside Riverton General, Evelyn insists on sitting up longer each day. Though still weak, her spirit remains unbroken. Nurses shake their heads in awe when she tells them, I won't let winter silence me. If they can march in the cold, I can fight in this bed. Marcus spends his mornings at her side, reading letters that pour in from across the country. One from a young mother in Detroit reads, I used to tell my children to stay quiet if police stopped them. Now I tell them to stand tall because of you. Thank you. Evelyn smiles softly. Marcus, do you hear it? People are learning not to bow anymore. Yes, Mama, he replies. They're learning because of you. Across town, Riverton's city council chambers overflow during public hearings. Citizens demand reforms, body cameras, independent investigations, and civilian oversight. Marcus sits with community leaders in the front row taking notes. A high school student speaks into the microphone, her voice trembling but fierce. My grandmother always told me to keep my head down, but now I walk with it high, because Evelyn Brooks showed me I don't have to be invisible. The gallery erupts in applause. Marcus's eyes glisten, but he stays composed. He knows this is what his mother wanted. Dignity spreading like wildfire. Meanwhile, Tom Greer festers in prison. His arrogance has curdled into bitter rage. He spends hours pacing, muttering, They made me the villain, they'll regret it. But his voice trembles now, stripped of power, ignored by guards and inmates alike. Derek Mills, however, has collapsed into guilt. Guards find him whispering Evelyn's name at night, tears streaking his face. One mutters, the court gave him years. His conscience gave him life. Nationally, the movement spreads. Chicago holds candlelight marches in freezing temperatures. Los Angeles paints new murals, Evelyn's silver hair glowing like a crown of fire. In Washington, lawmakers invoke her name during debates on reform. Commentators call it the Brooks legacy. One evening, Marcus speaks at Riverton University. The auditorium overflows with students, cameras broadcasting live. He tells them, my mother's blood stained her porch, but that stain became a flame. They tried to silence her, but they lit a movement instead. And now it's your responsibility to keep it burning. The crowd rises in a thunderous ovation. Students chant back, keep it burning, keep it burning. The clip trends nationwide. Hashtag surge, hashtag keep it. Burning had Brooks' effect. Back at the hospital, Evelyn watches the coverage, pride glowing in her tired eyes. That's my boy, she whispers. That's our city. But Marcus knows storms still gather. That winter, opposition groups rise, accusing him of politicizing tragedy. Anonymous threats flood his inbox. Leonard warns him, the louder your voice, the harder they'll try to silence you. Marcus's response is calm but firm. Then they'll learn the same lesson Greer did. Truth doesn't bend. Meanwhile, Riverton prepares for another massive march, this one on the anniversary of the shooting. Organizers expect tens of thousands. Reporters call it the march that will mark history. On the night of the march, snow falls gently, blanketing the city in white, yet the plaza glows with candles, brighter than ever. Families huddle together. Children carry handmade signs. Veterans salute. The chants echo through the cold. Justice doesn't rest. Justice doesn't rest. Marcus takes the stage at the courthouse steps. His breath fogs in the icy air, but his voice cuts sharp. 1 year ago, arrogance tried to silence my mother. Tonight, look around you. Did they silence her? Or did they give her a voice louder than they ever imagined? The roar that follows shakes the night sky. Candles lift high, chants roll like thunder. Her voice is ours! Her voice is ours! Back in her hospital room, Evelyn watches live coverage. Tears stream down her face as she whispers, "We rose, Marcus. We rose." And she is right. Riverton has risen. The nation has risen. Because arrogance fell that night. And justice, though fragile, has grown strong enough to endure the cold. Snow blankets Riverton, but the courthouse plaza glows brighter than ever. Each night, thousands gather despite the freezing winds, their candles flickering like stars. Children stomp their boots in rhythm with the chants, "Justice doesn't rest! Justice doesn't rest!" Inside Riverton General, Evelyn Brooks grows stronger day by day. She can now sit upright for hours, her voice steadier than it has been since the night of the shooting. Nurses bring her tablets loaded with news clips, and she shakes her head with a faint smile every time she sees her own face painted across murals. "Imagine that, Marcus," she chuckles softly. "An old woman like me turned into a mural." Marcus smiles, but his voice carries weight. "Not just a mural, Mama, a movement." Letters still flood the hospital. That morning, Marcus reads one from a child in Kansas. "When I saw what happened to you, I told my teacher I want to be brave like Miss Brooks. I'm only 8, but I'll never forget your story." Evelyn presses the letter to her chest, her eyes shimmering. 8 years old, Marcus? That's the future. Across town, Riverton City Council chambers erupt with debate. Reform bills line the docket, mandatory body cams, independent oversight committees, whistleblower protections. Crowds pack the gallery, chanting outside when votes drag too long. Marcus attends, standing tall at the front row, his presence alone a reminder that silence is no longer tolerated. During one heated session, an older councilman sighs, "This city has changed more in 1 year than in the last 20. Evelyn Brooks's name will outlive us all." Marcus answers firmly, "That's the point. Change isn't meant to be comfortable. It's meant to be lasting." Meanwhile, inside prison walls, Tom Greer rages. His arrogance has curdled into obsession. He spends hours muttering about conspiracies, pacing like a caged wolf. "They needed a villain, and they picked me," he tells anyone who'll listen, but no one does. He has become irrelevant. Derek Mills, by contrast, shrinks further into himself. Guards find him hunched on his bunk, whispering the same phrase again and again. "She wasn't a threat. She never was." The guilt has consumed him, heavier than any sentence the court imposed. Nationally, the Brooks effect spreads. In Detroit, thousands march with candles through downtown streets. In Dallas, clergy host vigils under banners reading, "Dignity is a promise." In Washington, senators introduce sweeping reforms, citing Riverton as the model. Commentators call it a second civil rights wave. One evening, Marcus is invited to testify again before Congress. The chamber is packed, cameras rolling. His voice is calm but resolute. "My mother's blood stained her porch, but from that stain grew a movement. What happened in Riverton must not be remembered as an exception. It must be a turning point. Justice cannot depend on chance. It must be certain." The applause is thunderous. Clips of his testimony trend nationwide. Hashtag surge again. #justice, certain, #Brooks effect. Back home, Evelyn watches the coverage on her hospital television. Tears stream down her cheeks as she whispers, "That's my boy. That's our fight." Later that week, Riverton hosts another massive march, this time in the snow. Tens of thousands flood the streets, bundled in coats, candles glowing in mittened hands. From rooftops, students project words across frozen buildings. Justice doesn't rest. Marcus walks at the front, his breath fogging in the frigid air. When they reach the courthouse steps, he addresses the crowd. They tried to silence one voice. Instead, they gave birth to millions. Look around you. Snow falls, winds cut, but you stand. And that is what dignity looks like. That is what justice feels like. The crowd roars, chants shaking the frosted plaza. "We will rise! We will rise!" Inside the hospital, Evelyn listens through her window. She whispers, "They're still rising, Marcus, even in the cold." And she is right. Because Riverton has proven something unshakable. Arrogance may strike, arrogance may wound, but arrogance cannot outlast truth. Arrogance falls, justice endures. By spring, Riverton no longer feels like the same city. The courthouse plaza, once just a patch of stone and steps, has become the heart of a movement. Murals of Evelyn Brooks cover brick walls, her silver hair painted like a crown of fire. Tourists travel from across the country to stand where arrogance fell and justice rose. Inside Riverton General, Evelyn continues her slow recovery. She still needs assistance, but her spirit has only grown stronger. Nurses joke that she's become their general, issuing instructions from her hospital bed. She laughs softly, but when she speaks to Marcus, her words carry weight. "Marcus," she says one morning, "I may not walk like I used to, but I can still stand, and I'll stand with you until this fight is won." Marcus takes her hand, his voice steady. "We're not finished, Mama. Not until justice isn't demanded, it's delivered." Across town, Riverton hosts the National Summit on Dignity and Justice. Activists, lawmakers, and leaders from across the country pack the city. Panels fill the courthouse, workshops crowd universities, and rallies thunder through the streets. Reporters describe Riverton as the new capital of accountability. Marcus delivers the keynote address at the summit. Cameras broadcast live nationwide. His voice carries like steel. They tried to bury dignity on a porch that night, but dignity cannot be buried. It grows roots. Riverton's roots are spreading, and they are stronger than arrogance. Tonight, we commit not to let this be a chapter, but the beginning of a new book. The crowd erupts in cheers, chanting, "New book! New book!" Back in Washington, reforms inspired by the Brooks case begin to pass. Federal oversight strengthens, states adopt civilian review boards, and police training programs shift focus to accountability. Commentators call it a cultural reset, but not everyone embraces it. Opponents push back, accusing Marcus of turning tragedy into politics. Online trolls flood his inbox with threats. Leonard warns him, "The louder your voice grows, the sharper the knives aimed at your back." Marcus responds calmly, "Then let them sharpen. The truth is louder than their lies." Meanwhile, in prison, Tom Greer festers. His arrogance has shriveled into bitterness. He spends his days muttering about conspiracies, pacing like a caged wolf. "They needed a villain, and they picked me." But his voice has no audience anymore. Guards ignore him, inmates mock him, history has already erased him. Derek Mills, however, sinks deeper into guilt. He barely eats, barely speaks. Guards find him scribbling Evelyn's name on scraps of paper, whispering again and again, "She wasn't a threat. She never was." His guilt is a sentence heavier than bars. Back in Riverton, Marcus sits by his mother's side, reading more letters. One from a teacher in Alabama reads, "Your story gave my students the courage to share their own. They see themselves in you, Evelyn. You gave them hope." Evelyn presses the letter to her chest, tears in her eyes. "Hope, Marcus. That's the real legacy." The movement continues to swell. In New York, thousands march through Harlem chanting Evelyn's name. In Atlanta, students project her face across skyscrapers. In Los Angeles, musicians dedicate songs to her, their lyrics carrying her words. National networks beam images of Riverton's marches across the globe. Commentators call it a second wave of civil rights. One evening, Marcus addresses another massive crowd in Riverton's plaza. His voice cuts through the chants. "They thought silence was power, but look around you. Do you see silence? No, you see strength. You see voices that will not bend, candles that will not burn out, a city that will not forget. And tonight, we say again, arrogance falls, justice rises." The roar that follows shakes the night sky. Families embrace, students cheer, veterans salute. The chants roll like thunder. "Justice rises! Justice rises!" Inside her hospital room, Evelyn hears the chants faintly through the window. She smiles, tears on her cheeks. "Marcus, they're still rising." And she is right. Because Riverton, once broken by silence, has become a beacon for the nation. Arrogance may have struck, but justice now leads. Spring deepens in Riverton, but the energy in the city feels more like a storm than a season. Every street corner hums with conversations about justice. Murals of Evelyn Brooks multiply, her face painted in bold colors across schools, churches, and abandoned warehouses. Children point at them proudly, whispering, "That's her. That's the woman who changed everything." Inside Riverton General, Evelyn's health improves steadily. For the first time since the shooting, she is allowed to walk the hospital hallway with the help of a nurse and Marcus. Her steps are slow, but her spirit is unshakable. Passers-by stop, some tearful, some clapping softly, all moved to see her standing. Marcus steadies her with one arm. "See, Mama? You're not just alive, you're leading again." Evelyn smiles faintly. "I never stopped, Marcus. I just changed the way I march." Outside the hospital, vigils continue. Even as winter fades, candles still light the nights, chants still roll like thunder. Justice for Evelyn, justice for all. Across town, Riverton University hosts another summit. This one is titled, From Arrogance to Accountability. Students pack the auditorium, cameras broadcast live nationwide. Marcus takes the stage, his words slicing the air. "They thought one bullet could silence my mother. Instead, it gave her a voice louder than they ever imagined. And now that voice belongs to all of you. It is your responsibility to carry it forward, to make sure arrogance never reigns again." The crowd rises, chanting, "Carry it forward! Carry it forward!" Clips trend instantly on social media. In Washington, reforms continue. A sweeping bill passes requiring federal monitoring of police misconduct. Commentators call it the Brooks Doctrine. Lawmakers openly cite Riverton as the blueprint, but opposition grows louder too. Critics appear on television, accusing Marcus of exploiting tragedy. Online threats multiply. Leonard warns him again, "The brighter your torch burns, the more shadows try to snuff it out." Marcus answers simply, "Then let them try." Shadows vanish in the light. Meanwhile, inside prison, Tom Greer has lost the attention he once craved. His arrogance now sounds like a broken record, his mutterings ignored by everyone around him. He paces endlessly, whispering, "They needed a villain, and they made me one." But even he knows history has already sealed his fate. Derek Mills, by contrast, collapses further. His guilt consumes him so completely that guards find him scribbling Evelyn's name on the walls of his cell. One whispers, he's already serving a life sentence in his mind. Back in Riverton, Marcus meets with community leaders in a packed church basement. The air is thick with purpose. Clergy call for truth commissions, students push for broader reforms, families demand protections for future generations. One mother stands, her voice trembling but strong. "My son was taken years ago, and no one believed me, but now because of Evelyn, they do. This isn't just her fight, it's ours." Marcus nods, his jaw set. "And we won't stop. Riverton will not be a story of one porch, one verdict. It will be a story of permanent change." That weekend, Riverton hosts its largest march yet. Tens of thousands flood the streets, their candles glowing even under the bright spring sky. From rooftops, students project words across buildings. Dignity is a promise. From balconies, families wave banners. Reporters call it the march that turned a city into a symbol. At the courthouse steps, Marcus addresses the massive crowd. His voice carries over the sea of people. They tried to bury dignity, but dignity is not soil. It is stone. And tonight, you prove again that stone cannot be broken. Riverton, you are not just marching, you are rewriting history. The roar that follows shakes the city. Rewriting history, rewriting history. Back at the hospital, Evelyn watches live coverage. She leans forward in her chair, tears running down her cheeks. "That's my boy. That's our people." Later that night, Marcus returns to her side. She takes his hand, her voice steady. "Marcus, promise me this. Don't let them turn this into just a memory. Make sure it lives longer than both of us." He squeezes her hand firmly. "I promise, Mama, this won't fade, not while I breathe." Outside, chants continue deep into the night, echoing across Riverton, across the nation, across history itself. Arrogance may have struck, but justice is writing a story that cannot be erased. The movement born from Evelyn Brooks's pain has spread far beyond Riverton. News anchors call it a new chapter in American justice. Her story fills textbooks, her face graces murals from New York to Los Angeles. And still, every night in Riverton, candles flicker and chants rise. Justice doesn't rest, justice for all. Inside Riverton General, Evelyn is stronger now. She can walk short distances with Marcus at her side. Nurses and patients stop her in the hallway whispering, "You're the reason we believe again." She always answers the same way, "No, I'm just the reason you remembered your voice." One evening, Marcus reads aloud a letter from overseas. Mrs. Brooks, your courage reached London. We marched for you here. We know your name. We stand with you. Evelyn presses the letter to her heart. Marcus, can you imagine? Across an ocean? Yes, Mama, he replies softly, because dignity speaks every language. Across town, Riverton prepares for another landmark march, the National Day of Dignity. Organizers expect hundreds of thousands. Buses arrive from across the country, hotels fill, and the courthouse plaza is transformed into a stage of light. The night before, Marcus meets with community leaders. The church basement is packed. A pastor declares, tomorrow the world sees Riverton not as a city of pain, but as a city of promise. Marcus nods firmly. And tomorrow we remind them, this is not the end. This is the standard. Meanwhile, in prison, Tom Greer fades into irrelevance. His rants echo down the corridors, but no one listens anymore. Guards barely glance at him. Inmates call him the ghost of arrogance, a relic of a fallen time. Derek Mills, however, has grown quieter still. His guilt eats at him until he can no longer speak full sentences. Guards find him clutching scraps of paper with Evelyn's name written again and again. One whispers, he's living in a courtroom that never ends. Back in Riverton, dawn breaks on the Day of Dignity. Crowds flood the streets. Families, students, veterans, clergy, banners wave, drums beat, chants rise like thunder. Helicopters circle above, cameras broadcast worldwide. At the front, Marcus walks with Evelyn in a wheelchair, her blanket wrapped tight, her eyes shining. The crowd erupts at the sight of her, chants rolling through the city. Evelyn, Evelyn, Evelyn! She raises a hand weakly, smiling through tears. I'm here, she whispers. We're all here. At the courthouse steps, Marcus takes the podium. The sea of candles and banners stretches as far as he can see. His voice cuts through the roar. They thought one porch could be silenced. Instead, that porch became a pulpit. They thought one woman could be erased. Instead, that woman became a movement. And tonight, Riverton declares, dignity is not optional. It is eternal. The crowd erupts, chants shaking the city. Eternal dignity! Eternal dignity! Reporters broadcast the moment worldwide. Headlines scream, from victim to victory, Evelyn Brooks leads Nation's Day of Dignity. Back in Washington, lawmakers watch live. A senator whispers, this isn't just a protest anymore, this is a blueprint. Later that evening, Evelyn sits at the courthouse steps, wrapped in blankets, candles glowing around her. She whispers to Marcus, I never thought I'd see this, not in my lifetime. He kneels beside her, his voice steady. You didn't just see it, Mama, you made it. As night falls, the city glows like a river of fire. From rooftops, students project words across buildings. No badge above the law. Families sing hymns, children chant, elders pray. And through it all, Evelyn smiles, her frail hand in her son's. Marcus, she whispers, promise me, don't let them turn this into history too soon. Keep it alive. He squeezes her hand. I promise, this won't fade. Not while we breathe. The chants echo into the night, rolling across Riverton, across the nation, across oceans. Because arrogance may fall in one city, but justice, once lit, spreads without borders. The Day of Dignity becomes the largest gathering Riverton has ever seen. By nightfall, the city glows under a blanket of candles, their flames dancing like stars across every street. From the courthouse steps to the hospital lawn, the chants roll like thunder. Justice doesn't rest. Justice for all. Evelyn Brooks sits in her wheelchair at the center of it all, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes glistening as she surveys the sea of faces. She whispers to Marcus, I never thought I'd live to see this, a city on fire with hope. He kneels beside her, his hand over hers. Mama, this is your legacy. This is what you built when you refused to be silent. The crowd notices Evelyn and chants her name. Evelyn! 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 Tears stream down her cheeks. She raises her hand weakly, and the crowd falls silent. With a fragile but steady voice, she speaks. They tried to break me, but look at you. You are unbroken. They tried to silence me, but listen to you. You are louder than ever. My pain became your power. And tonight, we rise together. The plaza erupts, chants shaking the ground. Families embrace, children clap, strangers cry. Reporters broadcast the moment worldwide. Headlines scream, Evelyn Brooks addresses historic crowd. Inside prison walls, Tom Greer hears the news on a television in the common room. His face twists with rage, but no one listens. Inmates mock him quietly, calling him the man who tried to silence history. His arrogance has been erased, replaced with irrelevance. Derek Mills sits in silence, tears streaming down his face as he watches the broadcast. For him, the verdict was never the true punishment. This is seeing Evelyn alive, seeing her stronger, seeing her become immortal while he wastes away in shame. Back in Riverton, Marcus takes the podium after his mother. The chant's quiet as he begins. His voice is steady, unyielding. 1 year ago, arrogance knocked on our porch with a gun. Tonight, that arrogance lies in chains, and dignity stands on these steps. This is more than Riverton's story. This is America's story, and we will not let it fade. The crowd roars in agreement. From balconies, families wave banners. Dignity is eternal. From rooftops, students project her face across buildings. In Washington, lawmakers watch the live broadcast. A senator remarks quietly, "This isn't just a protest. This is history being written in real time." As the night deepens, the chants turn into songs. Choirs lead hymns, drummers keep rhythm, and the city glows like a river of fire. Reporters describe it as a spiritual awakening born from a single act of arrogance. Evelyn leans against Marcus, her voice soft but firm. "Promise me, Marcus. Promise me this doesn't die with me." He takes her hand, his eyes fierce. "I promise, Mama, I'll keep walking until justice walks on its own." Later, as the crowd begins to thin, Marcus wheels Evelyn to the courthouse steps one last time. She gazes at the candles, her tears reflecting the flames. "Do you hear it, Marcus? That's not just chanting, that's history breathing." He nods. And it won't stop. When dawn breaks, Riverton wakes to a city forever changed. Newspapers across the world feature Evelyn's face. Commentators call her the grandmother of a new era. Schools teach her story, activists cite her name, leaders carry her words. In prison, Greer fades into obscurity. Mills wastes away under the weight of guilt. Their names are remembered only as warnings. But Evelyn Brooks becomes more than a name. She becomes a promise. On the anniversary of the verdict, Riverton unveils a statue on the courthouse plaza. Evelyn standing tall, her hand raised high, candles carved at her feet. The plaque reads, "They tried to silence her. Instead, she gave us a voice. Justice doesn't rest." Crowds gather at the unveiling, their chants echoing once more. "Justice doesn't rest. Justice for all." Marcus stands beside his mother, tears in his eyes. He whispers, "You're immortal now, Mama. Your story belongs to the world." She smiles, her eyes shimmering with pride. "No, Marcus, it belongs to the people. I just reminded them how to tell it." The storm that began on a porch in Riverton has become a movement stretching across nations, across generations, across history itself. Arrogance fell, justice rose, and dignity at last endured.